everyone, and welcome to Kiki Crochet. In this video tutorial we're going to learn how to crochet step by step this beautiful asymmetrical skirt. In the beginning of the video I have a chart with all the sizes from newborn to 2 extra large. Now for a size 8 years old, I used a total of 3.5 skeins of medium weight yarn, which each yarn is 3.53 ounces and 307 yards. We're going to see the material and the crochet hook that I'm going to use in a few seconds. What I want to mention about this design is that as I was going through with my skirt, I realized that this pattern is polymorphic. I can use it to work different projects. So we can make a sweater. See how by working the increases, you can work a top-down sweater with this design. So if you would close down here the stitches and work for the rest of the body and then the sleeves, but you can also make it a nice, warm and cozy winter poncho. See how nice it looks? So you can use this design to work any project that you prefer. We're going to see how to work a skirt, but the only difference if you're going to work a sweater is you will have to adjust the rib stitch right here on the top to fit nice on your neckline. Okay, so now let's see the material that I'm going to use and how to start our skirt. The yarn that I'm going to use is Alize Superlana Classic Batik, which is 75% acrylic, 25% wool. It's 3.53 ounces and 307 yards each skein, and I'm going to crochet with a 4.5mm crochet hook. Now before we start, I want to explain the chart that I have in the beginning of the video. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to crochet the belt of the skirt, which is going to be a band. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and crochet on top of each single crochet that I'm going to have on the band over here. I'm going to crochet double crochet with increases in 4 corners to create a square skirt in which when we wear it, the 4 corners will fall down, which will make it seem as an asymmetrical skirt. So we're going to crochet increases in the 4 corners as we do for the grind squares. Okay, now I'm crocheting for 8 years old. For this age, the waist is a total of 64 centimeters, and because the belts that I'm going to crochet in the beginning, the band over here, with by using the single crochet rib stitch, because it's very stretchy, I want to crochet the belts of the skirt 5 centimeters smaller than the waist. So my belt over here is going to be a total of 59 centimeters. Now, in the beginning of the video, in the chart that I have, which is for newborn up to 2 extra large, I also mentioned the setup for the skirt. So what the setup is, after the band that I'm going to crochet after the belt, how I'm going to adjust the stitches all around to form a square. So for this age, my setup is 12, 23, 23, 23, and 11. So each dash over here is my increase. So I have a total of 4 dashes, 4 increases all around. And in the beginning I start with half of the side of my square, increase, the second side of the square, increase, third side of the square, increase, fourth side of the square, increase, and the other half of the first side of the square. Okay, so we always want to start this way, half of the side, or half of the first side of the square, and half the second half of the first side in the end. This way our increases come out nicely throughout our project. Okay, so every dash marks my increase on the square. Okay, so now let's go ahead and start. And I'm going to start with a lighter color yarn to show how to work the rib stitch in the beginning, because the beginning of the colorful yarn that I'm using, the Alize Super Lana Classic, because the beginning it's kind of dark, you won't be able to see where I'm putting my crochet hook to work the back loops on the single crochet. Okay, so start with your beginning knot and start with 11 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Okay, I have 11 chains, so I'm going to start my first row with single crochet. So I'm going to have 10 single crochet at the end of row number 1. So skip your first chain, put your hook in the second one, and work your first single crochet. 1, next chain, 2, excuse me, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now I'm going to start row number 2 by chaining 1 and turn your work. So from here on we want to work on the back loops of the single crochet. So every single row that I'm going to work is going to have 10 single crochet that are going to be worked in the back loops only. Okay, so if I was going to work regularly my single crochet, I would put my crochet hook right in here, but I want to grab the back loop. So when you look your stitches from the top, see how it looks like a little braid over here? You want to put your hook in the center of that braid and grab the back loop. Next stitch, back loop. Next stitch, back loop. Next stitch, back loop. Next stitch, back loop, and so on. Okay, so I'm going to start. I'm going to be looking my stitches from the top, and I'm going to start with the first single crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and my last stitch, 10. So this was row number 2. And see how we have a little outline over here? These are the front loops that we didn't use on every stitch. Now chain 1 and start row number 3, and we're going to be working all rows in the same exact way. So turn your work, and again we're going to be working in the back loops only, starting from the first stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So this is how my rib stitch looks on the side. And see, even though we have only crocheted 3 rows, look how stretchy it is so far. This is why I want to work 5 centimeters smaller than the waist. Now I'm working for an 8-year-old skirt, so I'm going to crochet the total number of rows that I mentioned in my chart. So I'm going to work a total of 96 rows. Okay, for an 8-year-old, I'm going to crochet a total of 96 rows. I've already worked my 3 rows. I'm going to work the rest of the 93 off camera. And once I finish working my rib stitch, I'm going to turn my video back on to see how to join it and how to start working around for my square to form my skirt. Okay, so go ahead and finish off camera the total number of rows of the rib stitch that you're working for your skirt for the age that you're crocheting, and once you finish, we're gonna see how to continue. I have completed crocheting my 96 rows with the rib stitch, and this is going to be the belt of my skirt. And see how stretchy it is. This is why we want 5 centimeters smaller than the waist. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna work slip stitches in order to join. So fold in half. After my last single crochet, I have also worked a chain. So what I want to do now is I want to grab the first single crochet on the front side, and back here I want to grab the loops that are left over by working on the first row of chains. Okay, so grab the 2 leftover loops of your first chain and work your first slip stitch. Okay, second single crochet on the front, second chain stitch from the back and slip stitch, third single crochet on the front, third chain in the back and slip stitch, fourth single crochet on the front, fourth chain in the back and slip stitch, fifth stitch on the front, fifth on the back and slip stitch, sixth stitch on the front, sixth on the back and slip stitch, seventh on the front, seventh on the back and slip stitch, eighth on the front, eighth in the back and slip stitch, ninth stitch in the front, ninth in the back and slip stitch, and your 10th stitch on the front, 10th in the back and slip stitch, chain 1. Okay, so we've joined. Now see the seam over here? This is going to be the back side, the wrong side of my skirt. This is going to be the good side, and this is how it looks at this point. Okay, so now we're going to start with the stitches that I have on the setup. For the 8-year-old that I'm crocheting, my setup mentions in the beginning that I need to start with a total of 12 double crochet. So I'm going to start with a total of 3 chains, which are going to give me my first double crochet. I already have my first chain, so I'm going to crochet 2 more. So I have 3 chains, my first double crochet. So I need to crochet 11 more. So what I want to be doing now is I want to be crocheting on the first single crochet of every row. Okay, so go ahead in the single crochet, in the first single crochet of the next row, and work your first double crochet. Okay, so 2, next row, 3, next row, 4, next row, 5, next row, 6, next one, 7, next one, 8, next one, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So I have my 12 double crochet that my setup mentions that I need to start with for this age. So after the 12 double crochet, I'm going to work my increase. So what I'm going to do, on the next stitch right over here, I'm going to work 1 double crochet, chain 2, and 1 double crochet in the very same stitch. So this is my first corner for the square. So now in every chain 2 space that I'm going to have in my in the square, in every single row, in every chain 2 space, I'm going to be working the same increase: double crochet, chain 2, and double crochet. Okay, so my setup mentions that I need to continue with a total of 23 double crochet. So starting from the first stitch of the next row, 1, next stitch, 2, 3, 4, 5, and keep crocheting up until you have 23 double crochet. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm crocheting on the first single crochet of every row. An easier way to see the 2 stitches, to see the first stitch of every row, see here that we have this little mountain looking over here by working on the back loops. So on this little heel over here, I want to grab 1 stitch on the right and 1 stitch on the left. Those are 2 rows of single crochet over here. On the next heel over here, again, I have 1 row on the right and 1 row on the left, here and here. This is an easy way so you can spot out the rows of single crochet when you're working your rib stitch. So once I finish my 23 double crochet, I'm going to turn my video back on to see how to work the increase together and then to continue our first row. I've worked my 23 double crochet and I'm going to work my second corner. Okay, so in the very next stitch, work 1 double crochet, chain 2, and 1 double crochet in the same stitch. Okay, so this is my second corner. Now start working from the next stitch. Work again as I'm going to work again as my setup mentions, another 23 double crochet. So 1, 2, 3, and keep crocheting up until you have 23 double crochet. I've worked my 23 double crochet. Now in the next stitch I'm gonna work my increase again, my corner. So work 1 double crochet, chain 2, and 1 more double crochet in the same stitch. So this is my third corner. Now starting from the next stitch, again I'm gonna work my next 23 double crochet as my setup states. So 1, next stitch, 2, 3, and keep crocheting up until you have your 23 double crochet. I've worked my last set of 23 double crochet. Now in the next stitch I'm gonna work my last corner. Okay, so 1 double crochet, chain 2, and 1 more double crochet in the same stitch. Now, as my setup states, I'm going to finish my row with a total of 11 double crochet. So starting from the next stitch, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and the last stitch of the row, 11. Now I'm going to work a slip stitch in the first double crochet for this row, which is the chain 3. So counting from the bottom to the top, put your hook in that third chain and slip stitch. Okay, I'm going to chain 1 so my slip stitch doesn't come out. So this is what we have as a result. When we count the stitches from the first half and the second half, again I'm going to have a total of 23 double crochet on the one corner, 23 double crochet on the other corner, and so on. Now we're going to start row number 2 by chaining 3. I've already worked my first chain, so I'm going to work 2 more chains and I'm going to turn my work. Now those 3 chains, the first double crochet that I work, will not count as a double crochet for the first side that I'm going to work. It's going to count as the last double crochet when I turn my work, okay? And I'm going to explain in the end why this is happening. So now in row number 2, in between every increase, I'm going to have a total of 25 double crochet instead of 23. And this happens because I was working the 23 stitches in between plus the 1 double crochet of the one increase, and the other double crochet of the other increase are going to give me a total of 25 stitches. So in every new row that I'm going to start, I'm going to have a total of 2 extra stitches on every side of my corner, of my square, sorry. Okay, so I have my 3 chains. So I'm going to start working from the first double crochet, and instead of 11 stitches that I had in the end of the row, now I'm going to have a total of 12. So 1 next stitch, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. The 12th stitch is one of the double crochet from the increase. 12. Now I've reached my chain 2 space in which I'm going to work my increase in this row again. So 1 double crochet under the chain 2 space, 2 chains, and 1 more double crochet under the same chain 2 space. Okay, now starting from the next stitch, from the next double crochet, start counting for your next side for the square, 25 double crochet. 1 next stitch, 2 next one, 3, 4, and once I reach my 25th stitch, which is going to be the first double crochet from the increase, I'm going to turn my video back on to work together the corner and then how to work the rest of the row off camera. I've worked my 25 stitches and I've reached my chain 2 space again, in which I'm going to work 1 double crochet, chain 2, and 1 double crochet in the same chain space. Okay, so this is how I'm always going to be working in every chain 2 space. I'm always going to be working double crochet, chain 2, and double crochet in the same chain 2 space. Now starting from the next double crochet, I'm going to work again my 25 stitches. So 1, work your 25 stitches up until the double crochet that was on the increase of the previous row. In the chain 2 space again, work 1 double crochet, chain 2, 1 double crochet. Work your next 25 stitches, then your increase, double crochet, chain 2, double crochet, and finish up the row with a total of 13 stitches. Now the 13th stitch is the chain 3 that I worked in the beginning of the row. This is why I did not count it in the beginning. It's because I'm counting it as the last stitch of the row, and I'm going to have 12 stitches over here, and the 13th is going to be the chain 3 that I started my row with. I've completed crocheting all around. Now right here in the end I have worked 12 double crochet so far, and the 13th stitch is the chain 3 that I worked in the beginning of the row. Now, just so you don't get confused, for this project, in every odd number of row, in the first, in the third, in the fifth, in the seventh, in the ninth, and so on rows, in every odd number row, the chain 3 is going to count as the first stitch of the row, and in every even number row, in the second, in the fourth, in the sixth, in the eighth, in the 10th row, and so on, the chain 3 is going to count as the last stitch of the row. Okay, but what you have to be aware of in order for you to be easier to remember is that we always want to work 1 double crochet in every single stitch of the row, and once you reach the chain 2 space, you're always going to be working your increase. So now let's finish our row. I have 12 stitches, and the chain 3 over here is my 13th stitch. Put your hook in that first stitch, counting from the bottom to the top in the 3rd chain. Work your slip stitch, chain 3, and turn your work. So in every row we want to be turning our work, and now we're starting row number 3, which is an odd number row, so the chain 3 counts as my first double crochet. Okay, so now in the first row we had a total of 23 double crochet between each increase. In the second row we had 25 double crochet between each increase, and now in the third row we're going to have 27 double crochet between each increase. So each side of my square is going to have a total of 27 double crochet. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. So this side in the first row had 12 double crochet, second row 13 double crochet, third row 14 double crochet. Now every other side is going to have 27 double crochet, and I'm going to finish with a total of 13 double crochet. So in the first row I had 11 double crochet on this side, 12 in the second row, and 13 in this row. So 14 plus 13, I have my 27 double crochet that are going to make the first side of the square all around. Okay, so go ahead and finish the row off camera. Once I complete row number 3, I'm going to turn my video back on to mention how to start row number 4 and how to finish the rest of the skirt off camera. I completed row number 3, so I'm going to work a slip stitch in the first double crochet for this row, so in the 3rd chain counting from the bottom. Work your slip stitch, chain 3, and turn your work. So we always turn our work in every new row, so we have a straight seam back here. Now, this is row number 4. This is an even number row, so the first 3 chains that I work do not count as my first double crochet. They will count as the last double crochet for this row. So in the first row I had a total of 23 stitches, second row 25 stitches on each side, third row 27 stitches on each side of my square. Now I'm going to have a total of 29 stitches excuse me, in between my square. So I'm going to start with a total of 14 stitches, sorry. I'm going to finish with 15 stitches, so I'm going to have a total of 29 stitches on the first side of the square, 29 stitches on the second side, 29 on the other, 29 on the other, and so on. So in every single row we want to have the same number of double crochet on every side of our square. So in the next row I'm going to have 31 stitches all around. In the next row 33 stitches on every side of the square, 35 stitches on every side of the square, and so on. In every new row that we start, we're going to have 2 extra stitches on each side of our square. Now I'm going to keep crocheting up until I reach the total length that I mentioned on my chart. So for every age I have the total length that we need, from the skirt, starting to measure from the belt to the bottom. So once I reach that measurement, I'm going to stop crocheting and I'm going to turn my video back on to see how our skirt will look completed. I've completed crocheting my skirt, so after the last slip stitch I'm going to chain 1, cut the yarn, pull the loop and tighten off. Okay, so this is how my skirt looks like at this point. And for the 8-year-old that I'm crocheting, I mentioned in my chart that I want it to be 40 centimeters long. So fold it so your corners are aligned, and see how, if you can even make a sweater with this pattern, because see how the increases look like we're crocheting a sweater. So you can even do that with this kind of pattern. So what I want to do, I want to measure my 40 centimeters starting from the belt, going down diagonally up to the corner down here, and these are my 40 centimeters. I don't want to measure the 40 centimeters straight down because the corners down here are gonna fall under the knee and it might not look that nice, but you can try and see if you like that way better. Okay, depends how you prefer your skirt to be, but I'm measuring mine's from the belt, going diagonally down on my increases, and this is where I want my 40 centimeters to be. Now what I want to mention is that after I worked my double crochet on top of the rib stitch, my rib stitch kind of opened up. Okay, it got looser. So if you wear the skirt, it might be very loose and it might be falling off. So in order to prevent that, I crocheted a little belt. Okay, we don't have to see this on camera. I've worked 140 chains and a slip stitch in each chain, so I have a total of 139 slip stitches. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this belt and I'm going to take it through all around on here on the rib stitch that I worked. So I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to take those 2 strands before I weave them in, and I'm going to take them through the needle. And the other strand as well. And those 2 strands of yarn are going to help me take the belt through the rib stitch a lot easier. Okay. So make sure you are seeing the right side of your skirt. This is the wrong side because I can see the seam that I worked the slip stitches. Now, you can align your skirt in any way that you prefer, so you have your center right in front of you. This can be the center. You can have it a little slanted over here. It depends on how you like it. Okay, just turn it in that way and center it so the belt is right in the middle of the skirt. So what I'm going to do is up here on the rib stitch, right here in the middle, I'm going to find approximately the center of the stitches. We have 10 single crochet, so somewhere about in the center over here, I'm going to take the needle through to the back. Okay, and then you can count the rows of the rib stitch, or you can just go approximately and take out the belt and then take it back in, so you can take it all around through the skirt. So now I am in the inside through the outside. Okay, back inside. So keep taking the belt all around the skirt And when I'm back here in the front, I'm going to turn my video to see how my skirt looks completed. I've completed it, sewing the belt all around the rib stitch. Okay, now I'm going to make a bow. And my skirt is completed. So thanks for watching, please subscribe, and if you like the video, please press like and leave a comment. Thanks again, bye bye!